Good afternoon. I'd like to call the special meeting of the City Council Budget Workshop to order. And first B on the agenda is public comment. I have one speaker slip, Mr. Dennis Bell.
Good afternoon. As usual, the city has dropped an extremely complex 320 plus page document in the public's lap to digest, or should I say choke on, 4 days before this workshop. I know what I can be doing this upcoming weekend instead of attending the art festival, firefighters car show, and Memorial Day ceremony at the cemetery. Sound like a plan? First of all, I want to thank the finance department and all of the city staff involved in this budget for their hard work. The cover of this budget book has renderings of the city's Taj Mahal, new city hall, and police headquarters. The architecture for the police building looks familiar. The Michigan School in Loma Linda or Fox Theater building in Riverside. The architecture for that building doesn't really fit that area. Now then, how is the city budgeting for the White Elephant Historical Museum? Write checks as the bills come due? Same question for the city's payments to CalPERS. And how are the payments for vehicle purchases and leases being budgeted? How are fee waivers budgeted? Waivers for the individual events are increasing by 10%, upwards to 20% every year. I don't see the replacement cost for the Sunset Reservoir that's supposedly going to be bonded in 2028. City going to raise water rates to cover the debt service, or is it going to try to combine the flush with cash non-potable water fund with a not-so-flush water fund to cover it? The council is getting a list of anticipated unfunded projects at the June 2nd meeting. That list needs to include the reasons why. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Before we get started, I just want to let the council know that if there is an opportunity or you wish to take a break, we do have some light refreshments upstairs if you want to, and we can take a break or whatever the council wishes if we get to a point in time, or if we're going pretty good, we can either finish it. I would just like to make kind of an opening statement. I just want to make sure that that collectively, that as we review the budget, as we go through the process of the various meetings, that we keep in mind our collective wanting to make sure that we hold our spending to provide the services that we provide, both public safety and public services. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity with the professions or jobs that you've been in to experience any layoffs. I hope to provide that we've been able to maintain our level of staffing, our level of services as we go through this budget. I know when I was hired in '88, a few years after that we had a layoff. And so I experienced what a layoff and bumping rights meant and what the impact of that. And then again in 2008, we had a recession, and our workforce had to endure layoffs and furloughs. We had days without pay just to help the budget, and I would prefer not to go down that road, and we do as much as possible. I think we have a real balanced a budget that we can still maintain our level of services and our level of employees, and I hope that we can collectively maintain this budget process and be able to continue providing the services that our citizens look to us to provide for them. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Do I want to turn it over to you, City Manager?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, a lot to go over tonight. Our process has been we bring the budget actually to you on June the 2nd, knowing that this budget was being worked on up until last Friday, knowing that we can't just deliver it to you and give you 323 pages to read in just a few days. That's why we scheduled this meeting as a preview of that June 2nd meeting. It gives everyone, including the public, 2 weeks to go over this document before you were to vote on it. You will not be voting on the actual budget tonight. You may choose to give some direction to us, but this is really a presentation of what's coming on June the 2nd, and if the council is prepared, you could vote on it that night, or you could hold it for another 2 weeks to the next meeting in June. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to read the budget message, but just in case you haven't, I'll do a quick summary of kind of what the budget message, which is a summary of the whole 300-plus document. Really, when we go back to 2 years ago, we were seeing pretty strong post-pandemic revenue growth. We were hitting 9% growth in property taxes and things like that. Unfortunately, something like that doesn't last forever. We've seen a leveling off of those revenues, and that'll be reflected in this budget and moving forward. Really, 2 years ago, the talk was, when are we going into recession? And recession never came. And so that was a really good thing. It allowed us to stay in a strong position, but you'll see we have many more great ideas for providing services and things for the citizens than we'll have resources. But really what I'd like to get across tonight is that we're going to accomplish a lot in the next 2 years. We have a strong financial plan for over the next 6 years. And that while we can't fund everything, we're going to be funding a lot, and our employees are going to stay very busy delivering top-notch services and resources to the public. The proposed budget reflects prioritization and careful stewardship in maintaining core services, investing in our employees, deferred maintenance, avoiding that, funding critical infrastructure, and preserving long-term financial sustainability. The three largest budget pressures we have right now today, we are renegotiating 9 union contracts. We have $5 million in a future debt service related that we have built into the budget, but that does take a lot of capacity. That's going towards Safety Hall, Fire Station number 4, and improvements at the library, namely the cooling tower that needs to be replaced. Also, significant operational reductions and reprioritization is required to meet our critical needs. At a previous meeting mentioned to the council, we have looked at what our revenue forecasts are, what our expenditures would be if we just inflated budgets a certain percentage, but then you throw in things like the major projects we're undertaking, the MOU negotiations, things like that. We did have to go into our budgets, namely facility and community services, and make some cuts. And so we'll be discussing some of those tonight. We also have another cut planned 3 years from now. We could be making more than we are today, but what I don't want to do is try to make too many cuts at one point when we can spread that out over time. We have another opportunity 2 years from now at our next budget to look at how we're doing. If our revenues come in higher than projected, then instead of a $4 to $4.5 million cut, it might be a $2 million cut or 2.7, or it could get erased depending on how the economy is doing. So we want to look at what's a nice measured approach, and that's why we look at it over the 6 years. I have to give a lot of credit to our departments and our department heads really watching the bottom line and not only keeping their budgets where they need to be over the last 2 years, but also providing some savings back to the Treasury that we're using moving forward. Also, they came in on time and at the targets I asked them to come in at when we were working internally to put this together for you. And then when we did go back to the well, Tabitha and her folks did a great job in looking at where we could squeeze some money out of the budget. In some areas, the money that we cut is sometimes the money we use to be more flexible during the year when something unexpected comes up and we're able to postpone a project that needed to be done but is not critical, so we defer it for a year or two. We will see moving forward as we start taking money out of the budget through cuts like that, our flexibility becomes harder. Then if we need to make a cut, then it's something that we're going to notice more readily than a project we're trying to keep in front of deferred maintenance on. As I mentioned, we have major community investments that are going on. Safety Hall, Fire Station 264, the library chiller replacement. We've also invested in our homeless efforts over the last few years, technology modernization, especially in the public safety area, long-term infrastructure investment, things like trimming trees, fixing roads, sidewalks. We've done major work at the animal shelter. So all great achievements. Through our Safety Hall bid results, which were very favorable, we were able to do things like add the chiller for the library, restructure the plan, and actually come in with our annual debt service instead of being $6 million a year down to $5 million a year. So we were really excited about those bids coming in and being very competitive. Measure T continues to support major ongoing operational commitments, and quite frankly, I don't know where we would be without Measure T. The citizens entrusted the council and all of us with the extra penny, and we're really putting it to good work. If we didn't have that, we would be really, really hard pressed. So we remain financially stable. We maintain a healthy unassigned general fund budget. That unassigned budget, we'll talk about some more, but that helps us ride through the cyclical economic downturns that happen. The last thing we want to do is have something happen with the economy that's a dip, but it only lasts a few months, but it puts us in such a bind where we're looking at having to lay off employees or something like the mayor was describing before. We're not in that boat, and we're also planning to stay out of it. And so that's a big key for me, is to make sure that, you know, our employees, we don't want to take a 7-year employee that's doing great work, lay them off and not have them come back, or end up with a brand new employee that doesn't have 7 years of experience. So our plan has been working, and we believe it's going to continue to work. And then lastly, before I get into the slides, something that I'm proposing is that in this next year, we're going to take a look at all of the departments, look at the essential services we're providing, look at what's extra. We plan to do our revenue review in the spring, as we have been doing every 4 years. Then the fall of 2027, after we've briefed you on all that information, put together the next 6-year strategic plan with some realistic financial targets. So we're not saying, you know, we want to do everything here, but we only can set ourselves up for failure because we only can fund that much. But that, I think, would set us up for the next 2-year budget and on to really be in a great place to know kind of what we can do, what we can accomplish, and also, you know, what we can stretch to try to reach. So with that, let me.
Mr. City Manager, I failed to ask if we had anybody on Zoom for public comment. I don't think I saw anybody, but I just want to make that. And I know, but
Betsy, do you have anyone on?
Mr. Moderator, do we have anybody on Zoom for public comment?
Tonight we have a Miss Moderator.
Yeah, Miss, oh, okay. Miss Moderator. Okay.
Yeah.
And did Interim Assistant City Manager Garcia, did you have anything to weigh in before we get into our slides? No? Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. City Manager.
All right. So here's the summary of the slides that you're going to be hit with. We don't have a huge amount, but we're going to talk a little bit about the wrap-up where we're ending this current biennium. We're going to talk about 27 and 28, of course, the priorities and investments there. We're going to look at a bit of where we see right now, where the economy is going to be. The short version is nobody really knows. This morning they're talking about interest rates going up, mainly because of the war in Iran. But it should not affect our borrowing coming in June, because that's coming soon enough. So it looks like we're hitting the bids and the borrowing at a really great time. 6 months from now, we're definitely going to be seeing, the experts think we're definitely going to be seeing higher interest rates all across the board. We always want to talk about, okay, we're forecasting we can control our expenditures to a large extent, but we can't control our revenues so much. So what are the risks inherent in the budget? We'll talk about those 6-year projections and then our next steps after tonight. All right. 2 years ago in 2024, we were putting together the last budget. We definitely wanted to make sure that we were covering things like areas of public safety, fully coming out of the pandemic. We did have personnel spending that we wanted to look at. We had a number of positions that were considerably lower than we thought they should be. And so outside of the negotiating, we went ahead and did our own studies and were able to raise those positions up and keep us competitive in the market for recruiting and retaining good employees. At that point, revenues were growing rapidly, certainly more rapidly than now. We did expand some services. We looked at infrastructure and personnel. We did add personnel. One position, namely, was our climate sustainability person that we were able to add. We did add additional positions in the police sector that we've made a lot of headway towards filling all positions across the board, including in the police area. And we feel that through our citizen survey, through the feedback we get really constantly from our citizens, that we were trying to address the major priorities that they had identified and also our very knowledgeable staff did and that the council brought to us. We did mention, the property tax is going to come and go in waves now as as properties are renovated and redeveloped, such as the mall. We'll see changes, but the mall may take 4 to 6 years to get up and running, and it may take even a year or two after that before we see any kind of measurable difference. What's going on? Oh. Go ahead.
We have to stop.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going to stand in recess for a few minutes, see if we can't get the Zoom connected. So we're in recess.
Recording in progress.
Betsy, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Charlie.
Okay, great.
All right, I'll reconvene the city council meeting of the budget workshop. Mr. City.
All right. So as we were saying that our growth trends in revenue definitely are slowing. The expenditure growth continues. We've got service expansions, cost escalation, basically inflation. We have normal increases when employees go from one step to another in their plan that adds to the bottom line. So the added pressure, well, right now definitely would be how are the MOUs going to turn out. We do have inflation that's ongoing, and right now it doesn't seem like it's going to subside too much. We don't know how much more it's going to go up. It's certainly a lot lower than it was a few years ago. And then, just we have planned the added debt service, but that's such a large portion that we're adding to things. We call that out here. So how do we go about making the budget? Well, the first thing we're looking at is we want to make sure that we're providing as much as we can possibly that the citizens want and need. They probably don't know everything they need. That's why we have staff and department heads weighing in on those areas. We take feedback from the city council, but largely this budget is going to reflect more of status quo, make sure we take care of our basic services, do that at a very high level. And since we are projecting out several years, you'll see in a little bit when we're talking about making cuts to certain departments or having additional cuts planned, there's not anything recommended in here that I would say is a new service or an area that we would get into other than what's already been approved by the council. All right. We've started work on the new city hall. Something that's good to remember, really two major things there is one, we sold a piece of property that we used to buy both that property and the Kmart property and to plan the renovations of that building for all the departments to move into. So we turned an asset into an asset, which is always what you want to do instead of taking an asset, selling it, and having it disappear at $100,000 at a time. The other thing, though, is that this whole complex is going to need major work for the future. We had an estimate of at least $25 million. It'd probably be higher than that now because that goes back several years. And that money would have been needed. I mean, we have had a temporary chiller out in the parking lot trying to keep this building going. If you've ever been in these buildings in the middle of the summer, it's not conducive to getting any work done. And so a major renovation work was going to have to occur here. So instead of putting the money into these buildings, we put the money into that building. And so we think that putting money into a building that has a much longer lifespan is a more effective use of the taxpayers' dollars. We've got Safety Hall. The bid came in. It really came in great. It's checking along with the plan we have to do our borrowing. The green light has been given to the fire chief to get the contracts before you for design, and then we'll work on construction for Fire Station 4 or 264. And so all of that's in place, and we've added the library portion of it. Homeless Solutions, we received another $2 million in grants after our 30% reduction, another 8% reduction. So we're seeing benefits definitely. I mean, we were close to 300 a few years ago, and now we're around 100 in our point in time count. The public safety modernization, not only cameras and drones, also we've worked on back-end computer systems and things like that. The body-worn cameras is now in a system that works perfectly with our DA's office. They're really happy with now the speed that we can transmit important case information to them. We did a full renovation of 262 where I don't know if we're done with 263. We think we have a few more things to do there, but that's all planned and budgeted. And then the Museum of Redlands has been turned over to the city and should be opening this fall. I'll turn it over to Danielle now.
Thank you, Charlie. There are a lot of numbers on this slide. There are a few important ones. The most important are the numbers for revenue. Coming in a little bit more than $5 million over what we had forecast in May of this year, or March of this year. This was mainly due to investment income earnings. This is a credit to Treasurer Doolittle, as well as the health of the credit market for investors. Phil is doing a great job putting the city's idle cash to work. However, this is not a trend that the city can count on, as economic conditions can change and change in unexpected ways. Another important point to note on this graph is the savings in department expenditures of roughly $1.8 million. The credit here goes again to department heads doing a great job at managing their appropriations, containing costs and finding savings in an already tight budget. Taken together, these variances contribute to an overall improvement in the bottom line for fiscal year 2026 of roughly $6 million. And I'll turn it back over to Charlie.
Of course, at any time, if you have any questions, please stop us and let us know. So we know with inflation, things go up, and so we've got to, it's more costly just to continue to do business. We try to hold our expenditures as tight as we possibly can. We have our MOU negotiations we've talked about. So really, to be able to afford the things we need to do, we have to look at, okay, what are our targets for the budgets? So sat down with the department heads and said, all right, take your last year budget, inflate it by 3%, and then we'll, by doing that and adding the debt service for the police, fire, and library buildings, and money in the budget for MOU negotiations, we still come up short. And so then we had to then cut in certain areas. In addition to that, we asked the departments for what they would spend money on if we had more funds, just so we have a good idea of, what are the things we're not getting done. We may be missing something we really want, and then we want to try to fit that into the budget, and we may have to sacrifice something else. So for 27 and 28, we are projecting slower revenue growth, softer sales tax performance. It's that double-edged sword of, as inflation goes up, we could get higher sales tax, but we're also spending more money on all of the supplies and services that we're paying for. Inflation certainly impacts our labor. And also all the other things we're spending money on. I haven't looked at what our fuel costs have been. I haven't been tracking along those, but I know they're considerably higher than we imagined they would be. Property tax is stable, but we're not going to see the jumps right now that we had been seeing through some redevelopment that had occurred a few years ago. We do have a number of projects coming, but again, it's going to be delayed before it really comes in to our coffers. So we mostly took about $4 million out of the FCS budget, a little bit here and there, but mostly they took the brunt on it. I appreciate that. And they had to go back a few times and look at it to really help with that. We certainly are looking at core operations, making sure we're getting those things done and done at a high level. There weren't a lot of supplemental requests that were approved. I think I have here about 20-something million dollars was requested. And we were only to fund maybe about 26% of those requests. We did look at our citywide class and compensation study, and the news there was basically when you look at the total compensation area, we're not that far behind market. If you look at just salary area, we are. So what does that mean? We've got pretty good benefits, and we're low on salary. Does that mean that we need to make a big jump in salary? Well, if we were to do that, then we'd still have really good benefits, and we'd be above the market in those cases. And so while the class and comp study is not prescriptive in any way, it doesn't require us to do anything. It just gives us an indication of kind of where we are in relation to some of the other cities that surround us and water districts and things like that. So when we have recruiting opportunities, we kind of know where we are in the market. We also know that we could be losing people through retention or the failure to retain them because of the way the class and comp came out. But again, that's just one of our inputs as we look at all of our planning for salaries and benefits. We talked about major investments, pretty much covered all of these. The one that we have not even mentioned yet tonight, everything else we've mentioned tonight, is the Goodnight Inn transitional housing acquisition. We do have money reserved for that, and we're still working on final wording from the state and the county who are teaming up with us to make that happen. It's unfortunate that the third party that we were working with didn't live up to their responsibilities. But one thing I'm grateful for is that we do have a plan and we do have partners that are significantly adding resources to this. Both the county and the state are stepping up and helping us a lot. And this will allow us to keep that open and keep over 100 people sheltered. Did I skip a slide? And I think I turn it back over to Danielle.
Thank you, Charlie. This slide shows the current year estimate compared to the 2-year proposed budget. The first thing to point out is that fiscal year 26 looks very different because it includes significant one-time capital activity that's accounted for in that year. And that includes the use of reserves and transfers out of the general fund, and that's related to Safety Hall and State Street City Hall. In fiscal year 27 and 28, that activity drops back down, so the budget view becomes much more focused on ongoing operations. Revenues are still growing, as the city manager mentioned, but more slowly than in the years immediately following the pandemic. At the same time, the city is absorbing normal cost increases of personnel cost assumptions related to ongoing labor negotiations and the cost of maintaining current service levels. The main takeaway is that revenues are still increasing, but costs are increasing too. The proposed budget keeps current services in place and includes estimated personnel costs tied to labor negotiations, and it continues setting aside reserves. But even with those efforts, the general fund is still projected to use reserves in both years, or the unassigned fund balance. And that is why this budget required trade-offs and why future prioritization will be key. And I'll turn it back over to Charlie.
All right, we talked about supplemental requests, about $20 million, and only 26% of those being funded. We did target through this budget some public safety and also infrastructure improvements. Just for example, like in police, it would be the additional cost of the body-worn cameras for the new contract for that carries through the year. We also had the new paramedic squad truck replacement for fire. So that'll carry on because I think we're doing that through a lease. So there's a number of things that may have already been approved this year, but have long-lasting impacts to the budget that we had to absorb within this budget. Major capital projects we've already talked about. And then, again, we keep trying to align what are we hearing from the public and what are we providing to make sure we're matching those as best as possible. So when you look at supplemental requests, had about 20, almost 30 requests for new employees, currently recommending only 8.5. However, there was a big catch to that. Went back to the departments and said, okay, if you want to fund these positions, you've got to find money in your budget. So we're not finding new money to add additional employees. Right now, my belief is we need to hold the line as much as we can on employees. So if we're going to add any employees, they need to be absorbed within our budget instead of coming up with new monies for them. Want to be very careful about that because we have expanded in the last few years, and I want to make sure we don't end up getting too big as far as our personnel count. We had capital requested of $17 million, of which we're recommending about $6 million. Operating, again, is not even close, where we had $12 million of requests, but $1.5 million recommended. So why are we looking at this? Just to let you know that there's a lot more out there that we could be doing, but we understand we have to live within our means, and so therefore we have to tighten our belts, constrain the budget. Now, major projects that remain unfunded, I want to be very upfront with these things. There's things like that we've talked about, a skate park pump track, new firefighter or paramedics to get us, to bridge us until we get the new fire stations, an economic development strategic plan, the food security task force initiative, the fencing improvements that have been requested at Sewell Theater. None of those things, all of those fall into new initiatives coming out of this last biennial budget. So there isn't any funds built into this budget for that. If the council wishes to fund any of this, we're going to have to make cuts in other areas to be able to afford any of these things. And this is just a partial list of some things, but I wanted to make sure you were fully aware of what's being delivered to you.
So going back to that paramedic squad replacement, you mentioned that we'll have to absorb that in out years. Will those first few years in the out years, will that be a consistent cost all the way till it's paid off, or how is it staggered, or the amount staggered?
No, it's not funded at all.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to show here. Major projects that remain unfunded. So the fire chief came to me with a good plan. He said, it's going to be a few years before, in this next 2 years, our plan is to figure out how can we afford to build and staff, equip and staff at least one new fire station, maybe two fire stations in a certain time frame. In the meantime, could we hire, say, 6 paramedic firefighters and station them somewhere where we already have space while we're waiting to that, and then eventually convert them? The problem with that is a 6-person crew would be about $1.3 million, and that doesn't include the equipment for them. So apparatus and things like that, that's just the employee cost. To do a full fire station, not including the cost of the fire station, is $2.4 million for 9 new employees. So right now we don't have those built into this budget. Our focus has been to get the funding for design and construction for Station 4 done. We should have that in place by the end of June into July. It may not take a whole year, but just plan on a year for design for the station, and then construction shouldn't take, 12 to 18 months. I'd throw out, it shouldn't take 24 months to build it. In the meantime, once we've got that going, then we're going to turn our sights on, okay, how do we afford the next station? What are all the costs, including the employees? We do have some apparatus coming because you got to have a 2 to 3 year lead time on that. But that's always been part of our plan. Is there? That's next up on our priorities. All right, unknown risks. Certainly the economy, we never know really how that's going to turn out. Things could rock along the way they are right now. No one is predicting things to really take off and go gangbusters. Currently, with the international climate the way it is, no one knows what's going to happen to any of the tariffs. 2 of them have been struck down, and now the federal government is having a refund, and the national debt is exploding. So we don't know what kind of a drag that's going to be on the economy. If the war in Iran expands in any way or even keeps going, that's a significant drain on the federal dollars too. Which probably means money flowing to the states is going to be constrained in the future, which is typically how money flows to us through grants and things like that. Certainly claims and litigation, I'd say they've gotten significantly better today than they were several years ago. But we are always, it's an unknown. Trips and falls on sidewalks. We never know exactly where people are going to fall. But I would say that we've been really, really working on minimizing our claims and litigation. Until the MOUs are done, we don't know where they're going to be. Construction cost escalation and bid uncertainty. Right now, we're doing great. The next bigger bid for us, we will be coming back to the bidding table for our wastewater treatment plant, but that's out of the wastewater enterprise fund. So it's less. It's not really an impact to the general fund, but that's a big one for us because that did come in above what we were hoping it would be. But then our fire station a year from now, we are estimating about $15 million. 5-6 years ago, that might have cost $7.5 million. And so we're really hoping it comes in around 12, but we don't know yet. And then there's the unknown. When I first started more than 6 years ago, we weren't really spending much by way of homeless. Now we're spending $1 million a year plus a lot of money through grant money and everything. So there's always those unknown things that we have to jump on and take care of and do good work in. All right. These are yours.
Thank you, Charlie. So now we're moving from looking at the 2-year budget period to looking at our long-term forecast. So this section is meant to show a bigger picture, not just what we can fund this year or next, but also what the city's outlook looks like, and if current trends continue, where we'll be. So it helps explain why prioritization matters, that's key, and why ongoing costs need to be treated carefully, and why choices in this budget are important for the city's long-term financial health. So in simple terms, this forecast helps us avoid making decisions 1 year at a time. We'll look at 6 at a time. So we want to know whether new staffing, new programs, or ongoing costs are affordable not just today, but going into the future. For planning purposes, expenses are modeled at a 2.5% inflation factor, and revenues are modeled under a steady economic scenario. And basically, the important number we watch in this forecast is the unassigned fund balance, because that tells us how much flexibility the city has left over after covering the operating expenses and planned costs. So this is the revenue slide. The model assumes a steady economic outlook, as I mentioned, and that means continued growth, not assuming a major boom, not assuming a recession. The numbers include general fund revenues such as sales tax, property tax, fees, recurring transfers into the general fund. Overall, the forecast shows revenues gradually grow over a 6-year period, which is positive. But the key question is whether that growth is enough to keep pace with the city's ongoing costs. So, speaking of costs, this slide shows projected general fund spending. The forecast includes normal inflation, but also looks into including several major costs. So the debt service for public safety and the library HVAC projects, design work for Fire Station 264's relocation, and estimated personnel costs increased that are tied to the labor negotiations. It also assumes a 7% vacancy rate, meaning not every position is expected to be filled every day of the year. And the main takeaway is that expenses are also growing, and some of that growth is tied to major commitments the city has already been planning for. And I'll turn the presentation back to Charlie.
So, what's the bottom line? Well, we talked about estimating our revenues, estimating our expenditures with a little bit of growth built into them, adding debt service, adding some MOU authority from the council to the negotiating team, and where do we end up? And so you'll see our bottom line fund balance right there is we start at an ending fund balance in 2026 of $43 million, and we continue to draw that down, but you'll see our last 3 years in our forecast are are not where we want to be. In fact, we're essentially bankrupt in 2032. We have a negative number in our ending fund balance. And we wouldn't want to use things like our reserves, our emergency reserves to cover things like that. So as we're putting together this budget, we're looking at these numbers saying, okay, we've got to change things in order to stay within our means. And so by doing that, let me go back for a second. So we get here even with the reduction of the $4 million we've talked about. So right now, this budget as it is would put us in this picture without future modification. And so that's why this second one I want to show, we have projected a $4.5 million reduction in our budget starting in 29 that carries through. It's not 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5. It's a 4.5 million reduction that we don't replace. And so it ends up carrying through, and you see what a difference it does to our numbers. Now, some people would say, well, why aren't you cutting into it now? I think that's too much. And so we've already taken one swipe of the 4 million we've talked about. Let's see how the economy goes. Let's see how the revenues go. And the picture may be better 2 years from now. If it's worse, we run that risk. However, we are aiming at having about a $20 million ending fund balance. Now, I'm not going to lose sleep if it's 18. I'm not going to lose sleep if it's 17 plus. It starts getting below 17 into 16, then we're going to be tightening things up, definitely. If it gets below that 16, then we need to take a little more drastic action. If this were the picture that I'd be presenting without making this reduction, I'd say, hey, we're doing really well because we have 2 more budgets after this one to fix this last number here and get in the green area that we want to. And so right now what I'm saying is let's go ahead and watch these 2 years. We'll save where we can appropriately. We'll watch our revenues, but we need to be prepared for this. So that's why I'm proposing that we're going to spend the next 2 years really looking at our budget and saying, okay, if we have to take $4.5 million out, where's it going to come from? Right now, I'm going to say that I'm probably leery to just say, all right, we're going to take 3% out of every department, and that's it. I'd rather take a more targeted approach and look at where are we providing essential services, where are we not, where do we have room, all of those things. And so it's coming. And in fact, a few years ago, it was probably coming, but we've been able to do things like provide some savings, have better than expected revenues, and kind of has pushed this down the road some. So we've been pretty fortunate. Now, we're still, looking at spending $144 million in this budget. So it's not as bleak as it could seem. But we want to be mindful that there's a plan here. So it's unlikely that you're going to see me recommending a lot of ongoing costs to be added to the budget in the next 2 years that impact us even more. Because the last thing I want to do is add $1.5 million, if I can avoid it, that's ongoing cost, that now changes that 4.5 to 6. So again, a very key reason of why we project this out 6 years, because if we were just making decisions coming out of here, for here, we look really good. However, just very reasonable measured increases, both in revenue projections and expenditure projections, cause us to do this. Any questions? All right, moving right along. So looking ahead. All right, mentioned, I think we need to start really looking at what are we considering our essential services. That way we can have a conversation over a longer period of time than right before budget needs to be approved. And so my goal would be by the end of August in 27 to have a good idea of, and a good idea meaning have briefed all of you on, this is our revenue picture, this is where we might have room to get more revenue if possible. Here's our expenditure picture. Here's what we've identified are really essential services. Here's some other areas that we've been doing things that we may have to make some decisions on the future. I don't anticipate we'll have to make any decisions right there, so then we'll have a lot of time. So then we walk into doing our strategic plan. So complete our strategic plan. That'd be 29 through 32. At the tail end of that 32, we're going to be talking about whether, have we started our work on the 2035 general plan by then? We're at least going to be talking about it at minimum in 2032 because it takes some time. So we may be preparing to kick that off in 33 and 34 to have it ready for 35. So also to let you know, we're projecting out not only 6 years, but a few decades sometimes. And so trying to keep us on track so we don't get surprised. Am going to very closely watch the 4.5 million that we're expecting in reduction in 29 and 30 to try to shrink that as much as possible. So if we come in higher ending fund balance than for this year than we even project right now, that's money we can use to help mitigate that. The thing we want to be really cautious about is it's a $4.5 million operating reduction, meaning we've got to take it out and leave it out. So we can't use one-time money to plug it and think the problem is fixed. We may be able to plug it for 1 year, but we won't be able to plug it with one-time money and fix the overall. And that's what we would call a structural imbalance in the budget. Our operating costs are outstripping our revenue. We've been able to handle it through really strong financial controls. Lots of credit to our treasurer for, we never know what we can budget for those returns. He's knocking it out of the park all the time. So we appreciate that because that's really helped our bottom line. We don't know when that's going to be constrained. If there's an AI bubble and there's a correction in the market, makes his job a lot harder to meet the returns that he's getting us now. So we're watching all of those indicators.
Not too much pressure.
So where are we? Tonight is our workshop. On Thursday, Danielle will sit with the Measure T committee to go over what parts of the budget are being dedicated, what parts of the Measure T revenue is being dedicated to where in the budget. We have the budget presentation will be very much like tonight. We'll do a little bit edited since you've already heard it for Tuesday, June the 2nd. If we're ready to pass the budget that night, we'll be done with this part of it. The next part is actually redoing all the computer systems and everything to put everything in place. If not, we wait till June 16th. So in the next 2 weeks, if you have questions and everything, you'll have time to look through the budget. For tonight, we will be having presentations by every one of our departments. They will hit the highlights of what's in the budget to let you know what we could add, including in addition to the routine basic services that they're going to continue to provide. And of course, we're here to answer any question you might have. We project that's going to take us at least till 7:30, but we're here till we've exhausted all of your questions. So with that, if you're ready, we can kick it off with First Department. Any questions on the general overall picture? Okay, great. All right, Chief Tolber, you're up.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. For your knowledge, the police department budget begins on page 95 of your binder. So for those who may be watching online and don't know me, my name is Rachel Tolber. I'm the police chief here in Redlands, and I've had the good fortune to serve in this capacity since June of 2023. I've been honored to serve the community since 1997, first as an intern and then as an officer in 1998. Currently, your police department is allocated 148 full-time employees and 12 part-time employees. Of these, 98 are sworn officers and 50 are professional staff. Currently, we have 9 sworn vacancies, 8 professional staff vacancies, and 8 part-time vacancies. Our department is a full-service police department that consists of 2 divisions, administration and operations, both led by a deputy chief. The operations division consists of the Patrol Services Bureau, the Community Services Bureau, and the Special Services Bureau, each bureau led by a commander. The administration division consists of the Administrative Services Bureau led by a commander and the Support Services Bureau led by our operations manager. Men and women of the police department serve our community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In preparation for tonight's presentation, I went back to review my presentation from May of 24, and I'm happy to report that we accomplished most all the goals stated plus some additional goals. While I'm limited on time tonight, I will go ahead and highlight some of those major accomplishments for you. At the beginning of fiscal year 25-26, we had a high number of vacancies. I know you're aware because we've discussed them. At one point, we had 22 vacancies for our sworn personnel, close to 20%. Our Administrative Services Bureau was responsible for hiring and onboarding 29 employees during the calendar year of 2025. Of course, that was after completing extensive backgrounds on each of them. And this included 15 new sworn officers in 2025, bringing our current vacancies down to only 9. We currently have some people in backgrounds for a variety of these vacant positions, and we have 6 officers in the academy, 5 officers in our field training program, and 3 officers who've completed our field training program this past fiscal year. So with this increase in staffing, we were able to add a full-time officer to the traffic unit to address traffic-related concerns. Additionally, we supplemented traffic enforcement efforts with grant-supported overtime and data-driven deployment. The department received and outfitted 18 new Tahoes for patrol in 2025 and 8 new Explorers in 2026. Additionally, the department procured and deployed approximately 100 handheld desktop and in-car radios to replace those that were 25 years old and end of life. The department completed its 4th year of reporting crime statistics through the National Incident-Based Reporting System. So with 4 years of data, we can provide more information on crime trends, and we've seen a continued downward trend in crime with a notable decrease in total crime of 15% in calendar year 2025. The Administrative Services Bureau reviewed and developed a comprehensive employee wellness program to benefit all members of the department and includes wellness checks for all staff. And they also established a peer support team, which includes current and retired members. In partnership with our HR department, we completed a comprehensive audit and assessment of our Support Services Bureau, which provided a series of recommendations, including the reorganization of the Support Services Bureau and addition of staff. And now, as you know, and we discussed it last budget, access to conducted energy weapons, also known as CEWs, or more commonly referred to by their brand-specific name of taser, is vitally important to the safety of our community and officers. In this past budget, we traded out our end-of-life CEWs for updated technology, and these new CEWs were received, staff was trained, and they've been deployed. With your support and approval, the department, and as the city manager mentioned, the department has begun the implementation of a new contract with Axon. This includes body-worn cameras, drone as first responder, real-time incident software, virtual reality training, several ALPR cameras, and software to assist our dispatch center. And while the body-worn cameras and DFR have been deployed, the other components will continue to be onboarded throughout the next budget. And last but not least, the new safety hall has continued to progress, has been reported on earlier this evening. We were fortunate to see the groundbreaking and beginning of the demolition and grading project just a month ago. The total budget for the police department for fiscal year 27 is $43,328,936, and for fiscal year 2028, it's $45,355,852. Now, the budget before you includes the Axon contract, 17 new vehicle leases and outfitting, as well as several personnel modifications, in addition to our standard operations. The personnel modifications include a reclassification, addition of new positions, change of a title, and loss of one currently unfilled position. And these modifications stem from the completed assessment that I mentioned earlier from this past fiscal year. To arrive at the current version of this budget, we analyzed the trends of past budgets as well as the priorities of the department. And based on that analysis, we reallocated portions of the budget to address the critical needs of additional vehicle leases to replace the old city-owned vehicles, the Axon contract, and several of the personnel modifications to reorganize the Support Services Bureau. So with this budget, we plan to accomplish the following over the next 2 years. We plan to replace 17 old city vehicles. These are vehicles that range from 7 to 11 years old, and they were never absorbed into the city lease program. These vehicles include units that are assigned to all bureaus of the department, and this budget also includes the outfitting for these new vehicles. We plan to complete the implementation of Axon contract, including the real-time incident software, virtual reality training, dispatch software, and ALPRs. We'll replace the dispatch consoles that are currently end of life and replace them with the new consoles that we talked about just recently at past council meeting. We plan to reorganize the Support Services Bureau, much like we did the Operations Division in the last budget cycle, to ensure proper span of control, minimize risk, and enhance service. Again, following recommendations from the assessment. We'll continue to use data and evidence-based practices to optimize our operations, everything from crime reduction to recruitment and retention. And of course, we'll plan to continue the process of the new Safety Hall construction with proposed move-in dates late in 2028. So some of the significant items that are not included in this budget and that would have been included if there was additional funding include 14 additional vehicle leases and outfitting. We currently have 14 leases on 2020 vehicles that will soon be in need of replacement. Additional Motorola radios and chargers to equip our staff as we begin to fill vacancies. The addition of additional support staff, specifically a dispatcher, 2 record specialists, and a senior CSO, as well as several other recommendations, including an audit or inventory of property and evidence from the assessment, and finally, additional software and tools for a digital forensic specialist. So as I conclude my presentation to you all tonight, I want to thank you all for your time and consideration of this budget. And I will conclude with that. Be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Are there any questions for the chief? Hearing none, seeing none, we can go move on.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Now our next chief, Fire Chief Sessler.
All right, thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Council. Again, the fire department page budget is 124 in there for our budget documents. Good evening. I introduce myself, Rich Sessler. I'm the fire chief for the city of Redlands. I promoted in March of 2022, and I've been proudly serving the city of Redlands for 20 years and been in the fire service for 28 years. The Redlands Fire Department currently consists of 71 employees, including 60 sworn personnel and 11 non-sworn civilian staff members. Our department is organized into 4 primary divisions: administration, operations, community risk reduction, and emergency management. We currently have 2 sworn vacancies in our organization at this time. Before highlighting our accomplishments and budget priorities, I would like to provide a brief overview of ongoing work performed by the department each year, as well as in all risk public safety agencies serving the city of Redlands. The Redlands Fire Department responds to more than 12,000 calls for service annually, in addition to emergency response operations. Our personnel complete more than 21,000 hours of training annually to maintain readiness and compliance with state and national standards. Department personnel also support regional and national emergency response efforts when needed and regularly participate in conference and professional forums across the country to share best practices related to wildfire mitigation and community risk reduction. The department also conducts fire inspections, plan reviews, weed abatement and vegetation management activities, public education, preparedness programs, emergency management coordination, community outreach initiatives throughout the year. In addition, we continue focusing on career development, leadership training, recruitment, and succession planning to ensure long-term sustainability and effectiveness of our organization. Our ongoing mitigation efforts and community risk reduction initiatives continue to serve as a model to other agencies and communities seeking proactive approaches to public safety and resiliency. Our accomplishments. Over the past 2 fiscal years, the department has achieved several significant accomplishments that have enhanced public safety, operational readiness, and wildfire resilience throughout the community. Our fiscal year is the 25. We had the Station 2 remodel successfully completed in our organization, helped bring us up to modernization. Renovation of our City Emergency Operations Center, including audio-visual improvements, roof replacement, air conditioning replacement. And this was all accomplished through grant funding. We adopted our California Fire Code. This process occurs every 3 years, which occurred in 2025. Installed alert California wildfire camera. That was our first camera that we installed in 2025 off of Helen Court to improve situation awareness and early wildfire detection capabilities. We developed and adopted the city's first community wildfire protection plan, which defines a framework for us. And one thing I'm proud about that is that we did it in-house. Most agencies contract that out. With our personnel and our experience and relationships, we were able to do that in-house at a significant cost savings. And completed fuel management vegetation efforts covering more than 63 acres, and welcomed Faye the fire dog in 2025. So good support for us in community outreach and education. Fiscal year 26, submitted to, supporting our weed abatement and fuel mitigation. We applied for the California Board of Forestry and Fire Protection to become recognized as a fire risk reduction community. And we should be hearing about that in July. And that's an application that occurs every 2 to 3 years. Expanded our fuels mitigation projects, creating MOU with CAL FIRE conservation crews. So that's something we added this last year, and we had them out doing several projects already in our community at a significant cost savings. In the process of installing an additional Alert California camera at the Redlands Municipal Airport to help mitigate areas over there as well, to give us other detection, and that will pretty much give us all we need for our community on the visual for us. Completed outfitting 4 of our command vehicles. State of the art, those vehicles range between 10 and 17 years old. So we got our light fleet caught up, and we're in the process of receiving our last one, hopefully by the end of this fiscal year. Substance use navigator. So that's the position we got through the opiate settlement funds, and that's been in our department this last fiscal year, helping bridge the gap, outreach and education for those with substance use addiction. So it's been a great asset for us and impactful to our community. And then this last year, we also had our first BERT, Business Emergency Resilience Training. You've heard of CERT for Community Emergency Resilience Training, but this is for business focused. And we just conducted our last class this year, the 4th one in the series of classes to improve emergency preparedness and continuity planning and disaster resilience for our businesses. And then we just recently, you probably saw, we did a press release as well, automated external defibrillators, AEDs, stop-the-bleed kits, and Narcans at our community parks. Coyoza, Martinez, and Soccer Complex. Those are all out in place, and they're linked to Pulse Point, which is an app that the public can have. So if there's a medical aid in that area, it alerts on the Pulse Point app, and the community can see where those AEDs are at and get access to it. So pretty amazing, good. We'll continue to expand that program in our community. The proposed budget for the Redlands Fire Department for fiscal year 27 is $24,621,083.37. And fiscal year 2020 is $24,242,311. To achieve this balanced budget, the department evaluated operational efficiencies, delayed non-essential equipment replacements, prioritized grant funding opportunities, strategically phased projects over multiple fiscal years, and explored lease purchase financing options to help lessen the immediate cost of critical infrastructure needs. In addition, the department reduced fiscal year 27 and 28 budgets by $283,000 each year, and also $150,000 of fiscal year 26 as well. Looking ahead to fiscal year 2027, the department plans on to achieve the following goals: complete the generator replacement, installation, and facility infrastructure improvements at our Fire Station 263 on Pennsylvania. Architectural designs for replacement of Fire Station 264, which will be coming to council in June. Paramedic squad purchase, that's a replacement of our current paramedic squad. Complete emergency operations plan, which is underway right now, but we'll be completing it next year. And our local hazard mitigation plan, which is a 5-year plan that we have to do, which will be coming up in 2027. And then we ordered apparatus, as the city manager spoke earlier, delayed of those apparatus. We ordered these years ago in 2023. They'll be arriving, 3 of our type 1s in December, January of this coming fiscal, and we'll be putting those into service for fiscal year 27. For fiscal year 2028, purchase Zoll and cardiac monitors for us and our auto pulses. Those are on a 10-year cycle for those things, so those are coming up in 2028, so we'll be replacing those for all our frontline fleet. Purchase ballistic vests for our personnel, and complete the architectural design and begin construction of our Fire Station 264. Additional funding were available. Some of the discussions already occurred. I'll just review it again. The department would like to prioritize incident support apparatus that we have deferred to a later date due to funding. Our drone program, we have significant cuts to drones and purchases to extend our drone program, so we delayed those. Fuel Island at Fire Station 263, We have no fuel sources on the north side of our community, and that's a need. So the fuel line at Fire Station 230. On-duty health for all personnel, deferred that debris management plan for emergency operations, emergency management, and a fire extinguisher prop for community outreach and education. And then for us, personnel was an admin analyst position to support our increase of inspections, plan checks, and those things. And then 6 firefighter paramedics, which we had discussed earlier, which would be housed at our Fire Station 263. Thank you. In closing, I'd like to thank our mayor and city council and city manager and our community for the continued support of the Redlands Fire Department. I'm grateful for the dedicated men and women of this department and appreciate the professionalism and service they provide to our community on a daily basis. And I want to thank you to our support staff that helped make this happen. I get to speak up here, but behind the scenes are the ones that do all the work for me and make me successful. So thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the chief?
Actually, for both chiefs, I just recalled a question that I'd like to ask both of you. Thank you very much, both of you, for your service and for your staffs as well, for the service they have to our community. Really quickly, if you could just repeat for the good of the public, some of the information that you're giving could be glazed over. People aren't listening, and so if you could just repeat what positions are you, if there were some funding, you'd be able to request. And I know Chief Sessler said there was 2 positions that you're missing at this point. And could you tell me or the community what level they're at? What are they, firefighter paramedics or?
Yeah, so the 2 positions that we put in for 27, 28, the 27 was an admin analyst position to support our administrative office. And then in 2028, I requested 6 firefighter paramedics. And city manager spoke on that. It's over there is like a bridge between the stations being built out, and it was 6 positions to increase another squad in our community, increase the level of service to our north side of our community. And that was my request, and we're reviewing that.
I appreciate that. Chief Tolber.
Yes, council member. So the additional staff that I mentioned was an additional dispatcher, 2 records specialists, and 1 senior community service officer.
Thank you very much, just for the community to see and acknowledge that we are not getting those positions at this time. So important.
Thank you. Any other?
My question was asked and answered. I was going to ask more about the rationale of those 6 firefighter paramedics. If you could just expand on that a little bit, I think that would be helpful, because it's always nerve-wracking to see public safety on the unfunded list.
No problem. So just going more in depth on that. So that was, fire stations take a long to be built. So it's multiple years. This has been a discussion for several years on these positions. So this is a bridge the gap. So looking to increase level of service at a lower cost than the 9 by staff a full station. And we are currently in the replacement plan of our squad. So we have a few years of having apparatus that we already need anyways to balance that out. Is that enough information?
So the thought process is those 6 are the first 6 of 9 that would be needed when Station 5 is built. Is that right?
Correct.
Got it. So we would need 3 more eventually before we could staff a station.
Correct.
However, the positions that we're talking about for the paramedic firefighter now, for the fire station, we would need engineers and captains. And so it's not an easy translation to just say take 6 and move them over. There'd be promotional processes and higher costs when you go to the full station.
For the fire chief, Liz, are we doing anything to actively try to mitigate? I'm getting a lot of complaints about homeowners insurance being up because we're in a high fire area, and we know where majority of city is not in the high fire area, but we get,
Yes. So,
you know where I'm going with
yeah,
that.
100%. So we've been working that for multiple years. So the Community Wildfire Protection Plan is one aspect that helps with insurances. The application with the Board of Forestry, getting that certification as a community-wise fire community, which we should get in July, August, is when we should find out if we get that. That's another one for the insurance. The amount of mitigation we're doing, we talked about 63 acres in 2026. We're probably going to be 70 plus, if not more, this year in regards to acreage, and that's something the insurance companies look at if we have an active fuel mitigation plan. And then if what the insurance companies do as well is it's a broad blanket, I've stated this before, is they just use the zip codes. We have 2 zip codes in Redlands. They just throw out blankets to the homeowners and properties, and they may not be in the very high or high fire danger area. So feel free to reach out to us in our office. We'll help guide them to confirm where they're at and help them get them the information they need to help potentially lower their insurance rates or help let them know how they can speak to their insurance companies of what we've done in the city of Redlands.
Unfortunately, there's things you can't, I know most people have to go to the fair plan, but that's not because of what we do in the city. It's because the whole state is facing, insurance companies doing a moratorium on homeowners insurance and things like that. But I wanted people to know that, yeah, we are actively as a city trying to keep those costs down. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we can move on to the next.
All right, next up, we have Municipal Utilities and Engineering Department Director Heredia.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff, and the public. The budget for the Municipal Utilities and Engineering Department starts on page 270. I am Monica Heredia, Director of the MUED, and I've been with the city for a very short time, just a month. But so far, it's been a great experience, and this process has been very comprehensive for me, and I hope to provide you with all the information that you need tonight. The Municipal Utilities and Engineering Department is organized into three major divisions, including engineering, which also includes development review, capital improvement program, and construction management. The water utility operations, which includes potable and non-potable water, and the wastewater utility operations. In total, we have 94 full-time and 1 part-time professionals in MUED, and we currently have 7 vacancies. Some of the major accomplishments in fiscal year 25-26 are shown on page 273 of your budget. I'll just mention a few. A completion of 68 lane miles of street resurfacing, replacement of almost 10 miles of aging water main lines, rehabilitation of 4 miles of sewer pipeline, advertisement of the phase 2 of the wastewater treatment plant, expansion of the joint utilities lab, which is currently under construction, and completion of the AMI project. Our goals for the next 2 years is to continue paving or doing more street resurfacing to complete another or 1/3 of the remaining roadways in the city. Continue with water and sewer mainline replacements, completion of phase 2 of the wastewater treatment facility, which we're currently packaging to start advertisement in another month or so. And completing design of the Sunset Reservoir. The proposed budget for the 3 major divisions for engineering, it starts on page 276. And the general fund impact for fiscal year 2027 is about 1.2 million, and fiscal year 2028 is 1.2 million. The proposed budget for the water utility division is shown on page 304, and that is comprised of water operations, project grants, debt service, and for fiscal year 2027, the budget is about 43.3 million. For fiscal year 2028 is about 43.7 million. The proposed budget for the wastewater utility division is shown on page 315, and it's the same wastewater service, project grants, capital improvements, and debt service, totaling 68.5 million for fiscal year 2027 and 21.7 million for fiscal year 2028. So the total budget for MUED is 136.3 million for fiscal year 2027 and 92.8 million for fiscal year 2028. As other departments mentioned, we went through this exercise of looking at our budgets, trying to, we try to add back a position in the engineering division, which would have to be supported by general fund. It was the construction manager position that was eliminated 3 years ago, but we could not absorb this position. Some items that we would like to continue doing for both fiscal years 2027 and 2028 is resurfacing alleyways. And we requested about $500,000 each year for that program, and also sidewalks and ADA ramp improvements of about $1 million, and $100,000 in traffic and parking commission recommended projects. So the plan is to maybe absorb these projects into other projects as we prepare our CIP program. We also were able to replace 2 trucks that are outdated with new leases. And I just want to mention a couple of more accomplishments, because I think it's some of, if you can turn to 298, page 298 for the water utility. Again, I did mention the aging main lines. We also received an impact award in incentive rebates for energy demand response for the energy demand response program. Rehabilitated 5 potable wells and 4 booster pumps. And on page, hold on, it's 298 and one more, because these are, I think, pretty important accomplishments in the wastewater. They're listed on page 310. So the replacement of 8 variable frequency drives, refurbishment of 4 primary clarifiers, refurbishment of the secondary clarifier, SCADA system upgrades, 55 sewer main spot repairs, cleaning of over 184.5 miles of sewer pipe, and inspected over 50 miles of sewer pipe as well, which we're required to do. So I think that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I want to welcome you to the city. We have a wonderful city here. Unfortunately, you get thrown in the lion's den right away, but I've heard a lot of good things about you, so I know you'll do just a fine job. But anyway, I want to welcome you to Redlands.
Thank you, and I want to thank the city manager and the rest of the staff, especially finance. They were very, very helpful in helping me understand this budget. And when I came in, I was kind of bragging about my last organization, how easy it was, but this is just very well put together, and the amount of time that is spent, the details that goes into it, it's a lot of work. So I want to thank them for their help, and my staff as well, including the city engineer who's here tonight, just supporting me through this process and getting acquainted with all the processes here at the city. So thank you.
And I also want to chime in and thank you for the work and GoTom has done and the finance people to put this budget together. And again, a lot of the infrastructure that people don't see that is gone improved and upgraded is very commendable. I and maybe other council members get a lot of thanks for the paving that is being done. I think that's something that people can see and really kind of say, hey, it's doing a wonderful thing. If we could only just get the state to repave their portion of 38 and that would really be good. Go along with it because it's interconnected both on Brockton and Western and Colton. And so I think the citizens of the north side have really felt that there have been a lot of improvements in their community and upgrades to their streets. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the hard work in engineering. And I know keeping the water on, keeping it safe and safe drinking water is really important. And our wastewater plant is just as important. And again, a lot of those assets are unseen. They're out of sight and unseen, and so they don't really get a lot of the credit. But I, as somebody who worked in that division, understands the importance of safe and healthy drinking water and be able to do our treatment. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to again thank GoTom and the rest of the staff for all their hard work.
I should point out that Monica just returned from a trip to China where she ran a road race on the Great Wall of China. But we know she was really just inspecting how they build things and trying to figure out how things that she does here can last centuries.
There you go.
I could not find a pothole, honestly. What you mentioned about roadways improvements, the pavement is big. Transportation, and I was so amazed at I was in a city with 30 million people and high rises everywhere, hundreds of them. I've never seen that many in my life. And then just the subway system, the whole transportation system is amazing. It's incredible.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. If there aren't any other questions or comments, we'll move on.
Next up, we have Facility and Community Services Director Crocker.
Thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Tabitha Crocker, and I'm the director for the Facilities and Community Services Department. I've been employed with the City of Redlands for 19 years and the director for 3 of those years. Facilities and Community Services budget starts on page 193. And the Facilities and Community Services Department is made up of approximately 13 divisions. It includes 155 employees. The divisions include administration, airport, animal services, building maintenance, citrus groves, code enforcement, equipment maintenance, Hillside Memorial Park, parks, recreation and senior services, street trees, street maintenance, solid waste, and the landfill. Some of our major accomplishments for 24-26. Some of them were already mentioned, but we had the animal shelter kennel expansion project, the cultural arts master plan, as well as the parks master plan, which will come before the city council next month. Ford Park restroom facility replacement, the acceptance of Coyazo Park, the acceptance of the England Grove, the HVAC replacement at the Jocelyn Senior Center, and the replacement of some of our older vehicles. For our overall budget, the Facilities and Community Services Department's general fund budget is estimated for fiscal year 26-28 at approximately $23 million. And for solid waste, it's projected at $26,500,000. For the proposed budget, the Facilities and Community Services Department was able to reduce its general fund budget at approximately $4 million to create capacity for the rising personnel and operational obligations within the general fund. These shifts and cuts were accommodated throughout the department with specific areas of contractual work in tree trimming and other services and supplies. The contractual work for tree trimming was reduced from a $1.2 million to a $600,000. And this reduction was projected to occur once the city was caught up on tree trimming cycles. So now we're all caught up and we're just going to be maintaining a lot of the trees throughout the city. Additional cuts were completed for city events and programming that included a 20% reduction, as well as approximately 10% cut across all divisions in FCS for services and supplies. Some of the major accomplishments that are planned to be completed for this next year include the Texonia Park renovation project with potential funding exceeding $5 million. And this is a really exciting project. So we've got a parking lot planned, we've got inclusive playground, splash pad, ADA walking paths, a bathroom renovation, dog parks, renovation of the basketball courts, and additional and renovation of shade structures. We have a Phase 5 landfill expansion. This phase has a capacity for 6 to 8 years, and that's based on our existing tonnage that's collected. We've got a ZEV or zero emission vehicle purchase of solid waste vehicles and infrastructure. We have a Sylvan Park restroom facility replacement, and we have a Jocelyn Senior Center roof replacement. If funding were to become available Projects that were not a part of this budget due to cuts that would be requested would include playground and restroom facility replacements throughout our city parks. So we were trying to replace, one each year, but we actually were able to accommodate that with the Texonia Park. And then the Sylvan Park one that I mentioned, we have grant funding for that that'll assist with the replacement. New playground equipment or the replacement of, but new playground equipment would be like parks that don't have it. We've got Smiley Park, we've got the sports complex, and like Ed Hill's Park, something in the downtown area. These are things that you'll see in the Parks Master Plan that there are recommendations. Community center renovation project, the Redlands Theater Festival fencing, and then theater doors that need to be replaced. The pump track, Redlands Bowl fencing, and that's on the back side of the building to provide some security. And then, as always, if I wasn't a good director, I wouldn't ask for additional staff. So those are things that I held off as well. Additional staff, services, and supplies to support the growing needs and expectations of this department. In closing, I have to mention my team, Chandra and Ryan, for their help this year on the budget, but also Danielle and James. Their team's amazing. Their patience and assistance and expertise with facilities and services department's budget was amazing. And thank you, Danielle and James. So our department it's complex, and without them, we couldn't have successfully completed this proposed budget. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. And I'm available for any questions.
I just have two. Was your total, is it 49 million? Is that what the total budget then is?
Are you including solid waste?
Yeah, for all of FCS. Just 'cause I'm trying to write them all down and I missed.
Yeah, there's 23 for the general fund, and then I've got 26 for solid waste.
Got it. And then other question was on the tree trimming piece. By cutting that back, will we still be on basically a 5-year cycle now that we're caught up? Is that kind of the plan, or?
That's a 5-year cycle for most. Some of the trees can go as far as 7 to 8 years too. So it just depends on the tree, the type. But yes, it's a 5-year cycle.
Even at the reduced dollar amount?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The idea behind this 5-6 years ago when they started it was because we were so far behind. Okay. So we are in line with cutting that back because we have been caught up.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Something I should point out is we are having to subsidize the Grove Fund, and that's something we'll be looking at very closely in the future. Right now, a lot of the indications are it's because of the fly issue we had 2 years ago. We will have some replantings come online, but that's something we're going to have to look at because what's the number for this year or next year, the subsidy we're having to do for the Grove?
Around 600,000 for this year.
Yeah, so we were able to absorb that in this year's budget, but that's not something that's sustainable. So when I talk about really looking at where our costs are and everything like that, that's one of them where we're going to have to look at and see, do we continue farming 200 acres? Do we make some other decisions as far as keeping open space, but not necessarily farming? But some of them, I mean, there's costs inherent with having the groves. But just wanted to point that out to you because we hadn't discussed that before, and that was something very new that I just found out about recently, and it mostly goes back to the quarantine that occurred. But I knew the time was coming where we were going to have to be looking at those groves pretty carefully, and it's maybe not right this moment, but it's coming soon.
So that's $600,000 just in operation and upkeep?
Yeah, it goes towards, well, we have contractual services where Jacinto Farming still provides a lot of services to us, spraying and things like that, some expertise. We do have 2 employees, I believe.
Grove.
4.
Oh, we have 4, yeah. So we have 4 employees that do a lot of the work. The fruit isn't selling as well as it used to. There's a number of factors that go into that.
Just to mention too, we have newly planted groves. So we have England Grove and Ligonia Grove, and we won't see revenues with those groves for a few years. So that's another factor that's played into it.
Our tree trimming, is that now that we're caught up, is going to be in-house, or are we going to subcontract that out as well?
We still have contractual services for that, just because you need certain equipment to get to the larger trees. The smaller stuff that we can do, we will do that in-house.
Back to the grove piece. So we had a year with zero income when we had the Oriental fruit fly, and then we have the replant, which is almost 5 years before we get production. So we have zero income from that as well. So I think a couple things are factoring into that piece.
No, I just want to congratulate you, Director Crocker, and your staff for the number of expertise in all the different departments and fields that you are responsible for. So congratulations to you and your staff. It's quite a diverse departments and expertise to keep that department running. So congratulations on that. And yeah, thank you.
Mayor, may I make it? We've been here a little over an hour and a half. Maybe we could take a break if we're going to take a break.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, we'll stand in recess for about 15 minutes.
Okay, restart at 6:45.
6:45. Thank you.
Right?
I'll go ahead and reconvene the City Council's special meeting of the budget workshop, and I'll turn it back over to City Manager Duggan.
All right, we have Development Services Planning Manager Brian Foote up next.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm Brian Foote. I've been the city planner or planning manager with Redlands for a little over 9 years now. I'm pleased to present to you this evening the Development Services budget. This can be located on pages 168 through 192 of your budget document. The Development Services Department includes the following divisions or programs: Building and Safety Division, Land Use Engineering Division, which is the civil engineers and related staff that help us with development review functions, Planning, Economic Development, and Grants Administration. The department has a total of 27 employees, and we handle the development-related services and work with applicants such as developers, homeowners, residents, and others through the entitlement process all the way through construction and inspections. And we also have other related programs such as Economic Development Division, Historical Preservation Program, and a variety of other support functions. In building and safety, we have 8 positions, 1 chief building official, 3 inspectors, 2 plan checkers, and 2 permit technicians, plus a permit tech that's budgeted half-time for land use engineering and then half-time for building and safety. So we don't have any part-time employees. It's a half-time budgeted position for two separate divisions. In land use engineering, there are 7 positions. That's led by an engineering manager. And then planning has 6 positions, currently 1 vacancy, and that's led by a planning manager. Economic development has 1 position, and then department administration has 4 positions. Some major accomplishments by the department in fiscal year 25 are that we completed several significant housing element work program items, including ordinances updating the zoning regulations pertaining to housing regulations, as well as a zone map. And that's very important for maintaining a certified housing element and preserving local land use authority and decision-making. Also, we updated the climate action plan, and we also have an agreement now to utilize portions of the Redlands Mall parking lots for public use. Also, we've began work on some contracts to begin technology upgrades, for example, online plan checking and permit submittals, as well as a consultant to prepare ADU standard plans, which would be available to the public in the near future, and that helped us with our housing element compliance. The proposed department budget totals are approximately $5.9 million in both fiscal year 26-27 as well as 27-28. And that represents about a 5.5% reduction from the current fiscal year budget. Significant savings have been achieved by reducing the potential use of consultants and deferring some economic development and advanced planning projects that has resulted in an approximate savings of roughly $220,000. Some major accomplishments that we intend to complete in fiscal year 26-27 include opening a new centralized one-stop permit center in the new City Hall facility. Also, we want to give the public the option to submit plans electronically through Project Docs for electronic plan reviews, including enabling online payments for some building trade permits, and that refers to re-roof permits, plumbing permits, electrical permits. Those are the vast majority of building permits that are issued. As I mentioned, we also want to complete and then provide pre-approved construction plans for accessory dwelling units at no cost to the public. And those are some programmatic level accomplishments that we intend to complete. As for individual private development projects, we are looking forward to facilitating some potential private development projects over the next year or two. We've been anticipating for some time, which is part of our routine function of development review. Lastly, some significant items that we left out, but that we would add back if funding should become available, would be to hire a consultant to prepare an economic development strategic plan, followed by implementation efforts over the following years. And that would help us to align our work efforts across divisions and other functions so that we're all pulling in the same direction, so to speak. And lastly, to lease some newer vehicles for inspectors and staff. And that will conclude my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions for Mr. Foote?
I just have a general fleet question. I don't know if it's Charlie or who answers this, but we've heard a couple times about we would lease newer vehicles. On a lease, usually there's a term and then it's over and you get it and it's over and then you would get something new. So are we not renewing those, or are we just? Or are we paying a certain amount and then what's happening with them? Because is there not a set term on those, or does my question make sense?
The ones on the lease Enterprise from Enterprise, those cars that are on that lease, it's a 5-year. It's a 5-year lease. So I'm not.
So when it's mentioned that we would lease, we would get new lease vehicles. Is that adding to the lease then, or are the vehicles that they currently have that are old, were they purchased and they're not part of the lease program? Is that?
I mean, for development services, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. There was a time, I don't know if there was a certain amount of vehicles that the department had, like you're asking and you needed additional ones, or if
I think MUED said the same thing about leased vehicles, and that's where I'm.
Well, first of all, I think we should explain these are leases, but then do we turn the cars back to them after the lease is over, or do we own the vehicle then?
we can purchase them, but the program is we would roll over, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily own the vehicle at the end. This is one of those projects that in this next year, I want to do a deep dive in seeing how cost effective it is, because the idea is that we turn the vehicles back where there's some residual value before we've run them basically into the ground, and we take that residual value and pour it into a new vehicle, and that over time it's more cost effective and we have fewer breakdowns and fewer maintenance costs and everything like that. I don't know that we've done the analysis to see how well that's worked, and so what I want to do is dive in and say, is this really cost effective for us? Are we better off going back to the old way of buying vehicles, holding on to them for a certain amount of time, and then looking at refreshing the fleet, over time, without really planning obsolescence for the vehicles?
Because I mean, if we're in a lease situation and we've got it as a 5-year, then at the end of the 5 years, we would get a new vehicle and it would start over, right, for another 5 years?
Yeah, that's part of the program. That would be the concept of the program.
That's what I would, yeah.
There's vehicles for facilities and community services. There's vehicles that were part of the enterprise program that I decided to keep for 6 or 7 years because we have low mileage and we're not using them. So the valuation of that vehicle when we do turn them in would be high still. So it's just It depends on how you're using them, the mileage of it, and then part of the program. But the concept of the program was to do a 5-year lease for the vehicles and then turn them in. It's just through COVID, the supply of the vehicles, when we entered into the program in 2019, I think is when we started it, it didn't start off the way we thought it would due to all the problems in that industry. So we are looking into doing an assessment, like the city manager had said, to look at where are we, where are all the vehicles at and how we're utilizing all of them, and then figuring out the efficiencies and the cost savings that can be seen in that program.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just a little confused trying to understand.
It's very confusing. It's something we tried to start and we wanted it to run a certain way, and we hit all these roadblocks with the supply of vehicles.
In a perfect world, we'd be leasing them, and like every 5 years, we'd be getting a new set of leased vehicles, and they would always be fresh. And
when they started the program back in 2019, there was a lot of cities, agencies that saw a reduction in the maintenance and the repair, and the programs were very successful, and that's why the city entered into them. But due to the timing and everything that happened, I think that we've hit a few bumps.
Okay, thank you.
If I may provide a little more information as well. Everything I'm James Garland with the finance. Sorry.
Where are coming from?
With the leases, so we do have existing leases currently that are in the budget that's already been committed on a purchase order, and those are on a 5-year cycle. Some of the requests from the departments are for existing vehicles that weren't leased before, so they're brand new vehicles wanting to be on a lease. Some are new ads for not necessarily a replacement, and then some are turning in the leases and getting a new vehicle. Our staff is actively working with fleet to look at, is there advantage of keeping the vehicle longer? Is it cheaper than turning it in, paying for the outfitting? So that'll be all a part of, as City Manager Duggan stated, looking at the plan as a whole. But yeah.
I wanted to ask on the strategic plan and rolling that over into a general plan update, is that on the horizon, and what kind of would be the estimate cost for a general plan update? And if we don't have that number, that's fine. We can probably look at that and find out what that is, because I'm sure we're going to need to be looking at that.
Well, that would go into one of our 6-year projections, because right now we probably won't start in earnest till 2033. We'll plan on some things in 2032. So 2032 is probably when we'll get the real numbers of estimates closer to, how long is it going to take? Is it a 12-month? Is it an 18-month process? So we're pretty far away from getting any kind of numbers, but we'll do some estimates so we know, hopefully 6 years out, that number is coming towards us. Because if it's expensive, we want to make sure we plan for it instead of have a big surprise.
Yeah.
Oh, we now need $1 million or however much it is.
Do you remember how much the last general plan update was, or the current one that we're working on?
My recollection is it was close to $1 million, if not more.
Okay.
That money doesn't come from nowhere. There's a small percentage that is attached to building permit issuance that collects in a general plan update maintenance fund, from what I understand.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Foote. Okay, Mr. City Manager.
Okay, Interim Finance Director Garland will tell us about management services.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. We are pleased to present to you the Management Services Biennial Budget for fiscal year 27 and 28. My name is James Garland, and I've been with the city for over 11 years, and our budget will begin on page 57. So the Management Services Department includes the following divisions: Finance, Revenue, Purchasing, Customer Service and Utility Billing, and Information Technology. The major duties of Management Services Department include the following. For Finance, we perform the functions of accounting, budgeting, payroll, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. We prepare the annual comprehensive financial report, aka the audit report, and implement new governmental accounting standards. And we lead and coordinate the budget process for the city, including monthly reporting, biannual budgets, and mid-biennial updates. Our revenue division performs the function of collecting and reconciling all the city monies and deposits. They issue business licenses, dog licenses, transit occupancy tax forms, and yard sale permits. And in coordination with the city treasurer, they maintain the city's investment portfolio and provide monthly, quarterly, and annual reports, and also great returns. Thank you, treasurer. Purchasing division is responsible for performing and monitoring the city's procurement function for compliance and fairness. Our customer service and utility billing, they process billings for over 23,000 customers for water, solid waste, and wastewater. And they're responsible for assisting customers over the phone, in person, and taking payments for utilities and other various services. Division of Innovation and Technology, they're responsible for maintaining hardware and software used by all departments, developing strategies for and implementing information security, maintaining network connectivity, and system reliability. And for Management Services Department staffing, we currently have 53 and a half total employees. We have 2 in purchasing, 4 and a half in finance, and the half is a finance intern, 17 in IT, 5 in revenue, and 15 in customer service. Major accomplishments for fiscal year 25 and 26 include the following. We received the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year 24, and we've submitted this application again for fiscal year 25. And I'm happy to say that we've received this award for the past 20 years. So major kudos to our team. We've implemented a new online budgeting software that we used to create the budget, and it was a great success this year. So thank you for all the team on that. We've accepted over 350 applications in the Utility Assistance Program, and I've continued this program in the current proposed budget. We've received the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award for fiscal year 2025. And we worked with the police department on updating the camera system and infrastructure by replacing nearly half of the cameras. The general fund budget for management services is approximately $4.3 million in 27 and $3.9 million in fiscal year 28. This represents 3% of the total general fund department expenditures. And we have left our budget relatively flat and only increased annually by 3% as instructed. Our budget funding includes covering the day-to-day operational needs for the city and meeting regulatory requirements. For 27 and 28 major accomplishments we plan to achieve are as follows. Replace the remaining half of the police department cameras. Continue to assist in the information technology needs and designs of the new safety hall facility. Begin to offer online payment options for customers beyond utility billing, such as building permits. Offer additional payment kiosks at our new city hall location. And I'm happy to report on the existing one that we have here at our current location is we've collected over $1 million just from that one kiosk. And lastly, we're looking to go after the achievement and excellence in financial reporting again for fiscal years 25 and 26. If we had additional funding, we would continue to invest in our financial software for efficiency and enhancements. And we would like to fund more hardware in IT, such as desktops, laptops, and G-Techs, which are used by the police department. This concludes the management services budget presentation. I would like to make a special acknowledgement to our budget team for their outstanding work in the proposed budget. Miriam Valtierra, our budget analyst, Marie Datwin, our assistant finance director, and last but not least, Daniel Garcia, our interim assistant city manager. And I also want to thank all the department directors and management team and their staff for their diligence, collaboration, a lot of extra hours dedicated to completing their budgets. And I am really proud of how everyone adapted to the new budget software through this process. And thank you, Tabitha, for your cuts. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the city manager for his guidance and leadership and continued support through the entire budget process. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have. Thank you.
James, excellent job. To you and your team, kudos. This has been such an informative budget presentation. I do have a question about the Utility Assistance Program. I'm very happy to see it in the budget. Can you talk about how that's being funded now versus how it was historically funded when it first started?
Sure. Before it was funded with ARPA dollars, and now we're utilizing late fee revenue from water to fund that program going forward.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Again, I echo Councilmember Davis's kudos to you and your team and for all the work, and it really reflects the level of detail and expertise and knowledge. And again, hopefully you guys continue receiving those awards for your finance and reporting. So great, we're real proud of that.
Mayor, I did have a statement, just congratulations to Danielle on your being appointed interim assistant city manager. I think that's really nice. I wasn't here if it was announced, so I didn't know. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there was a formal announcement, but
Probably not. We're so focused on getting work.
we forget the. Okay, moving on. Thank you so much. Next up, city manager.
Yes, HR Manager Yorck with Human Resources.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jenna Yorck. I am holding down the fort for Human Resources. Although I've been a lifelong resident of Redlands, I have been with the city since January of this year. And so I'm excited to talk about the great work, our small but mighty team of 10. We cover everything from recruitment, selection, employee benefits, administration, wellness, performance management, safety, risk management, training, organizational development, volunteer management, state and federal reporting, MOU administration, which includes the current negotiations with all 9 units, employee assistance, and last but definitely not least, labor and employee relations. We've had some great successes in the last fiscal years, notably in recruitment and retention. This will be a preview of the reporting that I'm going to do coming in June regarding our vacancy rates, but we've reduced it below 10% for all units but one, and we've added a new recruiter and have stabilized our staffing. We've hired over 80 city employees just in the last fiscal year alone. This includes everything from nearly 200 volunteers and about over 84 recruitments to achieve this. In addition, we've enhanced our job fair outreach. One of our recruiters had the pleasure of going with Mayor Saucillo to a local school, and we hope to continue those endeavors, and we're partnering with our unions as well to achieve this and have greater outreach in the coming years. We're focusing on safety. We've revitalized our safety committee, and we held our first annual employee safety fair to educate staff right here in our breezeway this month. In addition to that, we've conducted over 14 training and developments to help with the succession planning, as well as make sure that our staff are prepared for their supervisory and management roles, and that's been a newer focus for human resources, as well as making sure that our staff are supported and well educated. Regarding the budget, as directed by our finance team, we've kept within the 3% inflator, notable exception being our property and casualty insurance. That increase has been approximately 20% in the coming fiscal year. Largely the cost of doing business, but there have been additional drivers such as supported insurance provisions for Citrus Center as well as Safety Hall construction projects. But on the upswing, we've recovered over $175,000 in subrogation for damages to city property. And so all in all, the human resources budget starts on page 43 to 56. And beginning in page 45, regarding the HR budget, we cover multiple divisions: human resources, risk, workers' comp, safety, and training, ultimately on page 55. With a total budget for fiscal year 27 of $17.4 million across those 5 budgets, and in fiscal year 28, $18.6 million. This concludes Human Resources presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
First, want to welcome you aboard to our city family, and sounds like you're going to be doing a wonderful job. Great report, I don't have any specific questions. Does anybody else?
Just a real quick comment. I mean, I don't know, the videos that you guys are doing about the recruiting and all the wellness programs that you're doing is just phenomenal. So great work to you and your team on that. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
And again, we'll be looking for more opportunities to do some more resource fairs. I think that's a great idea to get those local jobs opportunities here. And I can think of one right now, and I don't know how it'd fit in, but we have the Civics Day for a lot of the junior and senior high schoolers, and they come. I promoted. There's a lot of local jobs here, that within our organization, from the local lab to water industry to accounting, financing. So maybe that might be an opportunity we can look at in the future.
Absolutely. We look forward to it.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on.
Moving on to Library Director McCue.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. For the record, I am Don McCue. Next month, I'll be observing my 40th anniversary of working for the City of Redlands. And since 2013, I've had the privilege of being the director of what our namesake founder called the pride and glory of our town. That is, of course, A.K. Smiley Public Library. Your packet from the library begins on page 159. The library currently has 24 full-time employees and 15 part-time employees for a total of 39. In addition to administration, there are 5 divisions at the library: technical services, which orders and processes the books; adult services, which puts out the magazines, books, and all the material for adults; youth services, which serves our children in the community; and the special collections division, which encompasses the Heritage Room, responsibility for the Lincoln Memorial Shrine, and the soon-to-be-forthcoming Museum of Redlands. The staff, trustees, and I are proud of our accomplishments in the past 2 fiscal years. Briefly, those accomplishments include successfully collaborating with the Redlands Historical Museum Association to transfer the completed Museum of Redlands building to the city. Utilizing state and city funds in collaboration with FCS, we completed the renovation of the 35-year-old library elevator. A strategic plan for the library was finalized in the last 2 fiscal years. Finally, the library saw significant growth compared to FY23 and FY24 in both adult and youth circulation numbers, as well as attendance at all of our wide variety of educational and cultural programming, ranging from Smiley Live, Family Day, Library Days, and our Dia de los Muertos programming. The library's general fund budget for FY27 is $4,051,710. The budget for the following year is $4,112,949. A small cut in our office equipment and furniture rental line item, was affected to pay for a modest salary increase for the part-time literacy coordinator position. Our biggest planned accomplishment for FY27 and FY28 will be the opening, complete with 13 different historical exhibits, of a dream that has been 25 plus years in the making. I speak, of course, of the Museum of Redlands. We are on track for a ribbon-cutting ceremony sometime in late October, early November. Exact date will be finalized before the end of June. We also plan to address some of our significant infrastructure issues, and you've just heard about the cooling tower HVAC replacement project that is in your summary, as well as termite eradication. We also envision continued growth in our circulation and attendance numbers. Significant items that did not make it into the final budget include infrastructure items such as upgrades to the Contemporary Club main hall and stage, replacing the 20-year-old carpet at the library, repairing damaged woodwork in the conservatory and gallery walkways, and installing touchless faucets and water bottle filling stations. Our biggest wish list item would be fulfilling the library's strategic plan imperative to expand access to library services for all communities within Redlands. This could include redesigning the lower level for teens and adult literacy, or by acquiring and staffing a bookmobile vehicle. The library trustees and the Friends of the Library organization are willing to assist with the funding necessary for either project, but staffing the bookmobile would require at least one additional employee, preferably a mid-management position, to help alleviate our existing managerial challenges. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Any questions for the library director?
Just a statement that it's great that the library what the library does with all your different events is just, I mean, I get so much positive attitude. It's not because you have In-N-Out Burger there, although that does help. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Right. But yeah, I mean, up till, I mean, the Lincoln Shrine and the annual marches you have with the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, which I participated in just a few years ago. But it really projects Redlands as a cultural city. And so we want to thank all your whole staff and what you guys do, and to put on these different events. I know it's tedious with timing and everything else. So my hats off to all you do for the community.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Okay. I don't have any other questions or comments. Thank you, Director McCue. All right, City Manager.
To cover the city council and city manager's office budgets, we have interim assistant city manager Garcia.
Oh.
Thank you, Charlie, and good evening, Mayor, members of the council. For those of you who don't know, my name is Danielle Garcia, and I've been with the city for about 18 years, and I was formerly Management Services Director, and I've been interim assistant city manager for about a week. So that's how long I've been in this position. I'm going to cover for you tonight the parts of the budget, City Council's budget, and City Manager's office budget that Janice would normally cover. She has graciously allowed me to do so because she's out of the office this week. So the City Council's budget begins on page 21, and I'm going to cover both together along with the City Manager's office. The City Manager's office budget begins on page 29. So there are 10 employees in the City Manager's office. That does not include the City Manager or the City Attorney. And there are 3 divisions within City Manager's office. In terms of major accomplishments, I'll start with the Homeless Solutions Division. That is towards the end of the City Manager's office. Page 30, okay, I was going to say 34. Page 34 is Homeless Solutions. David Rabindranath and his staff have successfully housed more than 200 individuals and families in permanent housing through coordinated homeless assistance and housing programs. And as a part of their accomplishments, they have achieved an 8% decrease in the homeless population, following double-digit decreases of 34% and 31% already in 2024 and 2025, as City Manager Duggan previously alluded to. Additionally, they have also secured another $2 million in grant funding to provide services, outreach, and employment assistance, bringing total grant awards to over $10 million. Next is the the Communications and Community Relations Division. There's been a lot of work in this division to bring software to the forefront. I'll just touch on some of their accomplishments. A new community calendar was launched in the summer of 2025, and that was just in time for the Bulls Summer Music Festival. Since then, it has become part of our homepage, the city's homepage, and many other community groups have been able to add their events to the community calendar as well. Also, the addition of the communications specialist in that office has infused the city's social media presence and engagement online. The city's social media accounts now have more than 3.9 million followers, with video content generating 245,000 views this year compared to 5,300 in the prior year, which is an incredible explosion of online presence and really a testament to the groundwork and the headway that's been made by this position. Redlands TV is also responsible for creating much of this new video content, so shout out to Cam, if you're watching, Cam. Thanks to the talent of staff in that office, as well as the enhanced equipment and video production tools, we've been able to create a lot of new content and really drive that engagement online. In the city manager's office, in terms of accomplishments, there have been changes brought about as well by software. A new public records request system was implemented in 2025 with the aim of improving the process and creating a more efficient tracking system for managing responses to the public. The city also went live with its new agenda management system, and we are still working to further improve this system. The total general fund budget for the city manager's office for 2027 is $2.8 million, and for 2028 it is also $2.8 million. The city council's total general fund budget for 2027 is $566,000, and for 2028 it is $571,000. I'm using round figures here. In terms of adjustments, some adjustments were made in the city council budget to cover areas of costs related to a strategic plan that we would like to fund in fiscal year 2028. Legal expenses were reduced to accommodate that expense. And the goals for the next 2-year budget cycle include completing that strategic plan, conducting annual community surveys for both fiscal years 27 and 28, and the acquisition of the Goodnight Inn transitional housing facility in partnership with the county and state to solidify its ongoing operations. And given available funding, if the funding was available, it's likely that we would also recommend the addition of certain services and line items related to legal expenses and other services, and we would eliminate the budget for vacancies across the department as well. A huge thank you to Whitney, Carl Baker, and David Rabindranath for providing me the information on their accomplishments in this budget, and also a huge thank you to finance staff and the city manager and the city council. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you for your presentations. Are there any questions for Assistant City Manager Garcia? If not, great. Thank you so much for your report. Okay, moving on, Mr. City Manager.
And now to prove that 2 Garcias are better than 1, our city attorney.
Mayor and Council, I'm Yvette Avish Garcia, and I have served as the Redlands City Attorney for 4 years now. Before we begin, the City Attorney's budget is on page 39 of the budget book. So as you all may know, I handle many of the city's legal matters in-house. And I attend all the city council meetings, and I attend committee and commission meetings upon request. I've also assisted the city manager's office and police department with public records requests, and supervise all litigation matters that are assigned to outside counsel. My office also provides legal support on a daily basis to all of the city departments and assists departments in achieving their goals and objectives. For fiscal year 24-25, my office closed 7 lawsuits, and in fiscal year 25-26, 10 cases have been closed so far. Over the last 2 fiscal years, I've conducted Brown Act trainings to the Cultural Arts Commission and Planning Commission, and there are also 2 upcoming trainings in May and June with the Citrus Preservation Commission and the HRC. In late 2025, I also conducted a city staff training on the Public Records Act. So for fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28, I will continue Brown Act training of new city commissioners and board members and committee members. I'll introduce also in these years, I'll introduce some new training for city staff that touches on matters like contract drafting and drafting staff reports, and also responding to public records requests. My office will continue to reduce the number of active litigation matters and reduce legal fees. And I'll work with risk to identify opportunities where the city can mitigate risk and reduce the numbers of claims and lawsuits. This proposed budget includes a part-time position for my office. That position is contemplated to be a paralegal that will help me with routine legal matters so that I can focus more on more complex matters that come up in each of the departments. The fiscal year 27 budget is $1,013,494, and the fiscal year 2028 budget is $1,040,253. And that ends my presentation.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Again, I want to thank you. I mean, anytime I give you a call, and unfortunately I probably call you more often than not, for advice on what we should do on things. You've always been very, very, very good. You've backed it up with documentation as well. So when we're talking to people, it's just not coming off the top of our head. We're saying, ordinance so-and-so and so-and-so. So it's tough being a city attorney for a city because everyone thinks we have deep pockets. So every time they turn around, they want to sue us for some things. And you've addressed them very well. So I appreciate it. Not to mention, you keep us within the Brown Act. We don't want to all get in trouble. We don't intentionally do it, but sometimes people, So thank you very much. You've done a good job.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Also, I want to thank you, City Attorney, for helping us and keeping us on track. So thank you for all your hard work. Okay. Next is Mr. Duggan. Who's next?
Well, James Brown was billed as the hardest working man in show business. Well, this is the hardest working clerk in local government. Ms. Donaldson's up.
All right.
How am I supposed to follow that? Yeah,
Best for last.
Yeah, the quickest for last, right? Okay. Normally, I was always first on the agenda. Now I'm like the last. So like I feel important. Okay, so I'm Jeannie Donaldson. I'm the city clerk. I've been the clerk for almost 10 years and been employed at the city for 14. The clerk is made up of one division only, and only one city clerk that it provides for, one full-time assistant city clerk, and one part-time administrative assistant. Major accomplishments over this last fiscal year: managed campaign finance reporting for elected officials, and also managed the campaign committees. Complied with the Brown Act for all noticing requirements for public meetings, continued efforts to digitize all city council documents that are accessible through the city's website. I've been super proud of that. We started that IT. Eric Owens helped me get that going many years ago, and it's just been such a great addition to all that we can offer to the public. I don't know how much it's used, but still, it's there. I document all the proceedings, such as this specific meeting, and maintain all those decisions that were made. And I also hired a new part-time employee, administrative assistant, so did training with her. Budget totals for fiscal year 27, about $457,000. That's like well below anybody else. I'm a very lean budget. Fiscal year 28, about $390,000. What was cut from the budget, if you want to call it cuts, they took away my funding for a ballot measure, so you guys have to keep that in mind. So if you want a ballot measure, you're going to have to find the funds for it. Major accomplishments that I plan to work towards: manage the candidates running in districts 1, 3, and 5 for this November election. That's a hard job. Move to the new City Hall building. I don't know if anyone mentioned that, but I'm looking at that as like, that's going to be a big job. Manage over the campaign finance reporting, as always, and the conflict of interest Form 700 submittals. Manage a new piece, which is the fiscal training requirement in response to SB 827. All of you will get your notice. A few of you may have seen a notice already about this, and it's as the ethics training that you guys all will continue to do, but this is every 2 years, and we are required to have a number of us complete that. And then also in response to SB 707, I will now be, or soon be, posting agendas in Spanish in the window as well. So that is just as online. The online agenda will also be available in Spanish. And then along with that, there will be a bulletin board that will be available to the public to post their own translations. And as always, document all the proceedings and decisions associated with city council meetings. Fiscal year 2028, really pretty much the same thing. There will not be an election necessarily that I'll be managing over, so it'll be the campaign finance reporting, conflict of interest forms, the SB 827 fiscal training requirement, and also the SB 707 translations of agendas into Spanish, and document proceedings and decisions associated with all city council meetings. And if I had something that I could add back in, I would love to see I would like to add more to the meetings and professional development. I will be retiring sometime soon, and so I'd like to really develop some skills for my staff. So I'd love to see additional funds, but that's pie in the sky. So anyway, I'm available for any questions or anything you have. So
People don't realize you have to keep our elections, at least 3 of us are up this year, keep us straight, but you are also an elected official, as is the city treasurer, so you've got your own campaigns every 4 years to run as well. But thank you. You've really kept us, I know you've kept me straight and narrow, but make sure my forms are in okay so we don't get in trouble with the state. So thank you very much. And don't retire anytime soon, at least till I'm out of here. No, I'm being selfish, but anyway, you're great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeannie, for all the hard work you do and your staff does. And just want to congratulate you on doing the oath of office by memory. I think that's a pretty cool thing to do and not have to read it off a script. So that's pretty cool. So I appreciate all your professionalism and all the interface that you do with our public, guiding them where to go. Obviously, that's the first place they go and say, where do I go pay my bill? And where do I go get my plans checked? And you're very cordial and polite to our public. And I've seen that firsthand. So thank you for that. Okay, Mr. City Manager, what do we have next?
Well, just to wrap up my comments, really, I'm not going to read the last paragraph of the budget message, but on page Roman numeral 11, basically it expresses appreciation for all of the staff. I can tell you that Danielle, James, Miriam, and others have been meeting since August 2 years ago after we passed the last budget. We'll start again in August of this year working on the next 2-year budget. And as time goes on, we bring in more people. By the time January of the year comes, all the departments are involved. And it's a really big deal because A, we want to make sure we provide excellence for the city council, but B, this sets our priorities for the next 2 years and is the launching pad for the future. So I appreciate all the time that everyone puts into it. I especially appreciate Danielle, James, and Marie, who have stepped up with the changes we're having in the organization. Each of them are still working hard on this budget and all the other finance things while they're taking on additional duties until we fill positions, which we're probably another month and a half away. Well, it'll be sometime in June before we make decisions, and it might be August before people come on board. So I do appreciate their stepping up, and really, it's a great team to work with. I'm very fortunate. With that, I and the staff are willing to answer any questions you have. Unless we're directed to do something differently, this is what you'll be getting on June 2nd.
Well, I just say on behalf of the City Council, we want to thank all the directors, their staff, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, city treasurer for all the hard work that they put in and for being able to get through this part of our budget process. And we stand adjourned to tomorrow's City Council meeting at 5 p.m. It's a closed session. Thank you all. Have a good night.